public sector could swap pay rises for lower pensions. I'm going to read into this more from the Times, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an article from the Times with the headline that the public sector could swap pay rises for lower pensions. Survey shows half of younger teachers would be interested in the trade-off under a model designed to ease staffing problems without raising the overall cost to taxpayer. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share so you've got social media so others are notified of this video. So I would take it with a tiny pinch of salt, story from the Times. Although they do have certain stories at times, pun intended, as well. I do sometimes am skeptical about some of the things that they say. However, how realistic is something like this? I think there is a possibility of this. We don't want anybody striking. We don't want anybody being on the sidelines. We want people working. We want people getting back to work. And the Labour government have done a very good job of sorting out many public sector deals without a shadow of a doubt. This idea that they're offering here is, the possibility that they're reducing their pensions, and they consider very generous pensions. And public sector does have much better pensions than in the private sector. They get a lot better bonuses and a lot better things in that regard when it comes to incomes that they get from it. They are a lot better off. That's for sure. So. And if it means without having to burden taxpayers with more money, it's something that could possibly be seriously considered. But it's a question of, as well, for people out there to decide, do you want less money later on in life as a direct result of this? And I think most people would say no. Well, what else a solution is there be? Because they don't want to throw more money at this solution. What is the alternative? And the question is, would you accept a lower pension? If you still get a decent pension at the end of your life, obviously things may, you still get a decent pension from this at the end of your life, later on in life. It just wouldn't be as high as it used to be, is the mindset that is being painted here. So to get a pay rise now, and I think that's a kind of in the mindset of like, I'm not sure about this. I'm kind of a bit on the fence on whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, because someone would have to break down what the average numbers are. But I think, I think for every young teacher, it's different for everyone on this subject. Because some people will say, well, they want a high pension because they want to make sure they have as much money as they have at the end when they retire. For others, they're not worried about too much about the future, and they're worried about the here and now, and they want to make sure that they get as much money into their coffers as they can now. So it's different for everyone. I think it's a fair assessment to make. So millions of teachers, nurses, civil servants could be offered higher salaries in return for lower pensions under plans being considered to retain staff and avoid further pay disputes. So generous public sector pensions would be reduced in exchange for thousands of pounds and more in pay packets now under a model designed to ease staffing problems without increasing overall costs to the taxpayer. Unions are split on the issue, with some describing the plans as dangerous. However, others are understood to be increasingly open to the idea, acknowledging that some public sector workers retire on higher pensions than they need. This is also, I do think there is some agreement that there are some higher pensions than they needed to have, to be honest, as well. The Treasury, however, has not yet been consulted on the plans and is likely to be sceptical, given concerns that it would push by borrowing the tens of billions of pounds in the short term. Dissatisfaction with pay has been growing across the public sector, with the NHS and schools facing campaigns of strikes in recent years. And this year, ministers have resolved the industrial disputes with pay rises ranging from 5.5% for teachers to a 22% 2-year rise for junior doctors. However, Treasury has warned that it will only fund pay rises of 2.8% next year, leading to threats of more strikes if extra cash is not found. At the same time, there is increasing concern that falling real pay is having a damaging effect on frontline services. Officials are looking at ways to allow public sector workers to buy higher pay at a time when their lives in their lives where they may be seeking to buy a house or to look after children in exchange for a lower income in retirement. Kat Little, the permanent secretary at the Cabinet Office, has said that she is reviewing the balance between pay and pensions, and has begun discussions within Whitehall about offering staff more flexibility. Work is said to be the preliminary stage, and ministers who have not yet to be present or with worked up proposals may have not made up any decisions on the idea. That's at the time of this recording as well. So earlier this year, the country's biggest multi-academy trust, United Learning, set out plans to allow teachers to raise their starting salaries by about 15%, though taking lower pensions contributions. The main teaching unions attacked the move as wrong-headed and diverse, but surveys suggest that half of the younger teachers would be interested in such trades. Other unions are said to be more open to the idea, which has been championed by former Cabinet Secretary Lord O'Donnell, as a win-win reform that could save the government money. If you increase your civil servants' pay by £1,000, you could reduce the net value of their pension by more than £1,000, which makes debt more sustainable. But also be a trade-off that makes sense to the civil servants, because having your money up front will mean a bank gives them a mortgage, he said. It's a win-win, but it's just this quirk of our accounting that stops it from happening. While previous chancellors have been sceptical of the idea, O'Donnell argued an economically literate chancellor like Rachel Reeves will understand that this is making the public finances more sustainable and is very much in the spirit of changes to the physical rules in the budget. Dissatisfaction is cited as a key reason to why teacher training recruitment has consistently fallen short of targets, and is almost a third of new teachers quit within 5 years of qualifying. The NHS is also struggling to fill more than 100,000 vacancies, with 1 in 11 staff quitting each year. 1 in 4 nurses are now being recruited from abroad, as the NHS relies on immigration to plug the gaps. And this is the problem. See, when people, this is a great crux. I'm glad this has been brought up here in particular, because especially with people who have a problem with immigration, and I know a lot of people have a problem with immigration, if the pay is not good enough for people in these certain sectors, then if you're not going to increase the pay, then you have to bring in people from abroad. What's the point of a teacher or a doctor working in England when they can get the same kind of work or less work for more pay elsewhere? Like, if I'm a doctor and I can do the same work that I'm doing now in a different country but earn more money, I'm going to go to another country and earn more money because I'll be better off. Now, it's not always that the case, but some people who come will get the training and whatnot, and they will go away as well, which is another problem. So unless we sort out the wage structures when it comes to public sector, we are not going to be able to retain these public sector workers. And this leads us to immigration to plug the gaps, because it's all well and good training up new teachers, new staff and whatnot, but if we don't deal with the wage structure, if we don't deal with the economy, if we don't deal with the way that we pay public sector workers, we're going to have this problem consistently. So I'm glad that this is brought up in it. Civil servants are also increasingly unhappy about pay, which has fallen by 12 to 26% in real terms since 2010. Yeah, this is the biggest crux. Yeah, the Conservatives have hampered public sector pay and are quitting at near record levels. However, pension remains far better than the private sector, with employers' contribution of 28.29% of the salary in the civil servants, 28.68% of teachers, and 23.7% in the NHS. Some bin-breaking staff said they are able to retire on a pension at almost the same level as their salary. So Steve Webber, former pensions minister and partner at the Constitute LCP, said that there was certainly a debate that had to be about whether we had the right balance for public sector workers between pay and pensions. Many public servants might be interested in an option of higher pay now in exchange for less generous pension offerings. However, most public sector pension schemes are not separate funds, but are instead paid by the current tax recipients. Research by The Times revealed last week that nearly £1 in every £4 raised in council tax is now being spent on staff pensions. Webb said that while trading pensions for pay may cost neutral in theory, for the government it simply brings forward costs, because there is no money set aside for now for the pensions of teachers. NHS workers or civil servants, or any savings in pensions would not happen until today's workers retired, whereas the extra cost of higher wages would happen immediately. In general, government prefers to push costs into future rather than bring them forward, meaning this idea may not appeal to the Treasury. However, advocates of the scheme say Converting public sector pensions to defined funds is one way to solve the problem, while also helping with ministers' desire to find money to invest in infrastructure. Government spokesperson said, "We are focused on supporting the civil servants with the necessary tools it needs to deliver change for the working people." It's a very interesting. Now that I've read this, giving me a lot more food for thought about this. Because I'm somebody, I'm very, very conscious about having money for the future as well, even at my age. While some people are not so worried about it, they're worried about it down the future. It's different for everyone. But we're talking about, but the pay is much higher. The pay is is okay. It's roughly the same in private sector, but the work they do is actually much more rigorous and much more demanding in public sector than the private sector. Let me rephrase that. But their pay should be much better than the private sector. But their pensions are a hell of a lot better than they are in the private sector, and which was highlighted there. And then I've always known that as well. But is it right that the government doesn't put any more money towards it? I mean, it's a difficult one to talk. It's difficult because I feel like Labour have made steps in the right directions on this by increasing the public sector pay when they announced it right at the start of things. Yes, of course, more needs to be done, but I really don't want to see anybody going on strike over this. I really hope it doesn't come to that. I just hope that there's a solution to this. I really don't. I really think I think it should be individuals' choices if they want to lower their pensions. I think it should be people's choices if they want to lower their pensions. I think that's kind of my excuse me, my broad thinking behind it. Isn't it not right for people to have more choice about what they want to do with their money? If they want to invest it, put some of that money into their pension, they should be allowed to do so, have that desire to do so. Or if they want less of that money, so they can put that towards the home, children, whatever futures that they want now. People should have more of that choice, rather than have a decision made for them. We want people to have more freedom, do we not? What do you guys honestly think? What do you guys make of this public sector could swap pay rises for lower pensions? How do you guys feel about this? People having a bit more control over their money. I think that's something that we should seriously consider. Let me know your thoughts and more down in the comments section below. If you found this video interesting, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share it across social media so others are notified of this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing because it really does help support the channel. If you want to go one step further and financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.